So good afternoon, grade 9 students. Today we will discuss our lesson in Mapeh for the quarter 4, week 2. So first we have in music. So our topic in music is about romantic opera. So when we say opera, so opera became increasingly popular during the romantic period, and it is a story or the libretto told by the composers through music while using the word of the librettist. So when we say librettist is the one who write songs for the opera. So they work closely together to tell a story. So the book that composed and the librettist put together is called a score. So when we say a score has all the musical words, works, and ideas to help the performance tells the story. So we have different roles in opera that are considered, which has the different types of the voices. Each role requires a different types of singer, not only able to sing and given vocal range, but also a certain voice characteristics, colors, and power. So most dialogues in the opera are sung, and or rather in a recitative style. The certain aria, or also known as solo singing part, is what the public will remember when leaving the opera house. So properly and well sung, are beautiful and can bring an audience to the feet and decide the fate of an entire opera. So we have different components of opera. So first is we have the libretto. So when we say libretto, the text of an opera, librettist and the compo set work closely together to tell a story. Another component of an opera is the score. So the score, the book that composer and the librettist put together. Another component of an opera is the recitative. So this declamatory singing uses the process, parts, and dialogues of the opera. And last components of an opera is the aria. An air or solo singing part of the public will remember best when leaving the opera house. Next, we have different vocal classification of the opera. So first, we have for the male voice. First, for the male voice, we have the tenor. So when we say tenor, it is the highest male voice. Next is the baritone. So when we say baritone, it is the middle range voice of the male. And last is the bass, or the lowest male voice. Next is the female voice. So for the female voice, we have the soprano. So the soprano is the highest female voice. Second is the coloratura, which is the highest soprano voice. So there is difference between the soprano and the coloratura. So for the soprano, again, the highest female voice, but for the coloratura, the highest soprano voice. Next is the lyric. So when we say the lyric, it is a bright and full sound of voice. Next is the dramatic. So for the dramatic, it is a darker, full sound. Next is the mezzo soprano. For the mezzo soprano, it is the middle range voice of the female. And last is the contralto. It is the lowest voice of the female. Next is for arts. So for arts, we have the different Western classical, plays, and opera. So first is we have the Oedipus Rex. So for the Oedipus Rex, so Oedipus Rex was written or made by Sophocles. So the Oedipus Rex tells about the story of King Oedipus of Thebes as he discovers that he has unwittingly killed his father Laius and married his own mother. So this Greek story was regarded as or as an example of Greek tragedy. So next story we have, or an example of a Western classical plays and opera, is the Romeo and Juliet. So when we say Romeo and Juliet, it is a story about two young lovers, which was both family of Romeo and Juliet are against to their love story. So Romeo and Juliet was written by William Shakespeare. Romeo and Juliet is a story that has tragic ending. So Romeo and Juliet is a story between the Capulets family and the Montag family. So next classical play or opera is the Carmen. So the Carmen is about a half-wild, fascinating creature, a gypsy, with and living bound of smugglers into the mountains near the coast of the Spain. So this story, the Carmen, is about how they smuggle the food uh, to Don Jose. Next is for PE. So our PE is all about the different types of recreational activities. For the different types of recreational activities, we have the physical recreational activities, the social recreational activities, the cultural recreational activities, and the intellectual recreational activities. So for the physical recreational activities, example of that are the following. So first we have the minor sport, some games, uh, and we have different ball games also. So under that, the physical recreational activities. Next is we have the social recreational activities. Example of social recreational activities are the following. So we have the social dancing, attending parties, and other means of parlor games. So the following that I've mentioned are example of social recreational activities. Another type of recreational activity is the cultural recreational activity. So under the cultural recreational activities are the following. So we have the arts and crafts. So joining glee clubs, dramatic guild, joining dance troops, and other. And last is we have the intellectual recreational activities. So for the intellectual recreational activities, examples of these are the following. So we have different board games, songs, short story writing. We have the answering puzzles, playing Scrabble, jingles, and internet surfing, and others. So we have physical recreation helps develop your physical aspect, and joining social recreational activities will help you the following. So first, it increases your contact with other people. So when you join different different recreational activities, you especially when you are joining under that social recreational activities, you mingle with other people. Another one is it releases tension. So if you are stressed, joining different social recreational activities can help releases the tension that you are feeling. Another one is we have satisfy your basic needs to belong. So for this one naman, when you join social recreational activities, so this is the time kumbaga wherein you feel belong. Like for example, if you have talent in dancing, So, when you join, di ba, sa mga dance, nag-socialize ka. And especially, kumbaga, kung mag-join ka sa mga activities na gusto mo, so you feel satisfied. And sometimes, to the point ka, na nga, hindi ka mag-untat. Next is we have gain recognition. Of course, when you join a social recreation, it can gain recognition. So any means of recreational activities, you can gain recognition. So they can recognize your talent on how good you are in doing some recreational activities. Next is provide self-expression. So when you join recreational activities, that's the time that you express yourselves. Next is develop leadership. Of course, each one of us gusto nga maging leader. Gusto nga siya ang mag-lead. So for this one, it can develop leadership. And last is have democratic experience in group activities. So this is the time that you can, when you join recreational activities, you can do whatever you want. As long as you cannot, hindi ka maka-harm sa iba niya tao. And as long as you enjoy doing the recreational activities. Next is for health. So in health, we have the different conceptual framework of intentional injuries. So when we say intentional injuries, that means ginhungod. Ginhungod, bunga, mamilasan sa. So first we have here the suicide. So when we say suicide, it's an intentional taking of one's own life. So for suicide, during this pandemic, this is very rampant, especially on teenagers. Suicide. So you take your own life because of depression, peer pressure na feel. So teenagers like you, commit sa suicide because they don't know what to do. So nakakap sila sa idea where suicide is the best solution to their problems. So they take their own life. Next is we have so when we say naman parasuicide, a parasuicide is a suicide attempt in which a person does not intend to die. So this one, the parasuicide, just like you, mga teenagers, ano din siya very common. Or, kumbaga, naka-experience din sa mga teenagers wherein are mga suicidal thoughts, attempt sila nga magpakamatay. So, arblang galaslas-laslas sila, pero hindi nila mag-intend nga magpakamatay. Arblang, they do it to feel pain. Or sometimes, they do that para mahbal nga ang ilang pain tolerance are high. Pero they do not intend to kill themselves. Next is we have domestic violence. So when we say naman domestic violence, it is an act that includes physical assault like hitting, pushing, shoving, etc. Sexual abuse unwanted or forced sexual activity and verbal abuse. So for this one, domestic violence, if that person keeps on dinasakit niya ka, not hindi lang physically but also emotionally. He or she always do that. So that is a domestic violence. And for that, may karampatang parusa sa domestic violence. So muna sa for example, sa mag-boyfriend and girlfriend, if your boyfriend keeps on hitting you, Gina-torture ka emotionally, gina-permi ka ginabuyayaw. So that is an example of domestic violence. And for that, pwede mo na siya mag-file ng case. Yung example na ang assault na kaso. Kung ginaanoya ka, kung ginasakit, and may mga evidences kabi nga nagkapasa ka, nagkalagog, kung na nagka-black eye ka, tungod nga na sumbaganya ka, ganyan. Next is bullying. So for the bullying, it is an unwanted aggressive behavior. The behavior is repeated or can be repeated over time. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have a serious lasting problems. So bullying. So this is very applicable sa mga students, bullying. Pero hindi na sa school. Also, it may be sa inyong workplace, bullying. So, di ba, in bullying, we have different types of bullying. It may be verbal bullying, physical bullying, or cyberbullying, or maybe social bullying. Sa bullying naman, if that person ginabully ka, he or she may have problem sa ilang house. That's why sa imo yana paupok. Ikaw nang iyangan na pag-initan. And if that person is a bully, kumbaga, pag nakita niya nga you are weak, ikaw na iyanga target. So, himo niya na every day. Every time makita niya ka, sulit-sulito niya na himo ang mag-bully. Another intentional injury is the stalking. Okay, so for stalking is a pattern of behavior that makes you feel afraid, nervous, harassed, and danger. It is when someone repeatedly contacts you, follows you, sends you things, and talks to you, even when you don't want them. It is very threatening to the person being stalked because the behaviors and action of the stalker often invade his or her privacy. So for the stalking naman, if someone sends you gifts, tapos hindi mo alam kung, you don't know kung sino nang send sa iyo sa mga gifts, or ibo nga personal phone number mo, nakakuha niya, and he or she keeps on sending messages. Sometimes, ang stalking, lang kakaon ka, ginasend niya ang picture mo ng account. Dahil pa ng buhay ka. So, muna siya kinahibusang stalker. So, kung may stalker ka, it can make you feel nervous and afraid. And sometimes, kumbaga, nagkaka-anxiety ka. Yung paranoid. Now, when you walk, kumbaga, ikaw lang isa nagalakad, feeling mo, binugay masulpot na sa or ginaara sa palibot mo, ginabantayan, ginasundan niya ka. Amo na ang stalking. So, ang stalker, kumbaga, gina-invade niya ang imo nga privacy. In short, wala ka may matago siya, kaya miskan di ka magkadto, arat na siya, ginasundan niya ka. Next is extortion. Another intentional injury is extortion. So when we say extortion, it is an act of using force or threat to force people to hand over their money or property or favors. So for this one naman, extortion can happen outside or near school, wherein children are victimized or give up their allowance in exchange by promise that they will not be beaten up. So for the extortion, example of this is when someone keeps on asking you for some money, that is an example of extortion. Kung hindi ka maghatag sa kwarta sa iya, babe, ano niya ka na puhugon, niya ka na mabala sa takumulot ka, bugbugon ka ka maghatag, sipaon ka karon. So that is an example of extortion. When someone keeps on asking you, it may be money, things, kung hindi mo pag-ihatag, yung mag-result sa physical injury, so that is an example of extortion. Another intentional injury is the gang and youth violence. So a gang is defined as a relative tough, mostly street-based group of young people who regard themselves and may be seen by others as group that engage in range of criminal activity and violence. So before, so wala pa pandemic, sa mga high school, ano ni siya, like, sa mga school, may mga gang-gang, gini niya, na, this one, kapalitan na sila sa away. Or makita mo na sila na nag-aaway sa mga dalan. So, ang gang naman, so syempre, before, share ko lang, during our high school days, very, din isang grupo ang Bloods kag ang Rips. Okay. So, that is an example na sila sa gang. Next is we have okay, we have illegal fraternity related violence. So for this one, a fraternity is a group of people with similar backgrounds, occupations, interests, or tastes. The youth may think of several benefits in joining a fraternity. They may see it as a gain in power and protection, as fraternities have a reputation for being a powerful group. For the fraternity naman, ang fraternity, common isa sa colleges. Especially, like for example, so may mga fraternities na legal, kag may mga fraternities nga illegal. So, ang fraternities na legal, they are recognized by our government because they do things, kumbaga, which can help sa aton nga government. So, ang mga fraternities naman nga illegal, amo na sila ang mga fraternities nga nag-create na sila grupo, tapos, amo na silang ginahizing na nila mga apply sa ilang group. And sometimes, it can cause death, ang hazing. So before you enter a fraternity, you will undergo hazing. And too much hazing can lead to death. Next is we have another intentional injury is kidnapping and abduction. So when we say kidnapping is taking away or forcefully moving a person against his or her will and holding him or her in unjust captivity. So the act is usually done for a motive like getting a monetary reward or ransom or getting some sort of benefit from the person or their family. Okay, so ang kidnapping, this happen kumbaga kung ginasabilitan ka na ginakuha. Ang mga nagkakisulot, ang ginapagputo, ang mga bata, mga babae, ginapagsulot sa van. Tapos, they ask for ransom. So, i-contact mo nila ang family, ibunan nila hostage, pangayuan sa ransom. Next is, when we say naman abduction is the use of deceit or force in order to take a person or a child away from their home or relatives. In abduction, the victim usually knows or has some sort of relation with the abductor. So for the abduction naman, so, ano rin sa'yo common sa mga bata. Like for example, palagitan na nilang bata, mabana sila nga, dali, di pala, may chocolates, kundi, ihantag mo sa imo, upod ka sa apple. Or sometimes, they will tell the kids that, come here, mabait ang toys, or let's watch movie, we'll go to amusement parks, and after that, iyan na nila na yun. Pakaialabay nila, money ang family. But the difference between kidnapping and abduction, sa abduction naman, kinala sa nag-abduct ang iyang gina-kidnap. In short, na-target nila na ang iyang ang bata nga or sino man nga person ang iyang waon. Unlike sa kidnapping, ang kidnapping niya, randomly na ilang ang kidnap. They will ask for ransom. or sometimes sa ano na sila nag-ask sa government. But for the abduction, kilala na yan sa abductor ang iya nga kwaon nga bata or that person. And last, intentional injury is the acts of terror or terrorism. So it is the use of violence for political goals and putting the public or a great number of people in fear. So the purpose of this terrorist group is to produce terror in their victims through the use of violence, fear, and pressure. So for this one, so the acts of terror or terrorism, so for example, they will make a bomb threat.